I welcome all of you wholeheartedly for another session, yet another session of English class. And today's class is for class 9. And we are going to discuss an important and a very interesting lesson, that is the little girl. Kezia is the name of the little girl. This lesson shows the relationship between parents and children. Sometimes children misunderstand their parents. Why do they misunderstand them? What is the solution to remove this misunderstanding? This lesson is all about that. But before we get into this lesson, let me try to kind of throw some light on the role of parents played for their children, or the role of parents in the society. You see, parents are the greatest gift that we have in this world. This is a fact that you cannot deny. God cannot be everywhere. There is a beautiful saying, God cannot be everywhere. That is why He made mothers. Now, not only mothers, but as well as fathers. So, parents are the synonym. They are the meaning of responsibility. They are committed. They do not compromise with certain values, and they compromise with their own needs and luxuries. They are symbols of sacrifice. They care for you and they love you. These are some of the qualities or virtues, I may say, that you find in your parents. These virtues are always present, and for the parents, their only world is nothing but their children and their progress. You see, sometimes you might like to have certain things. You might have your own needs, and you tell or express your needs to your parents. They try their best to fulfill your needs, and they try their best to satisfy you by giving away or giving up their own needs. They might be in need of certain things, but when you come in with your own demand, their demands take a back seat, and they sacrifice their luxury so that you may get what you want. So obviously, don't you think that they are the symbols of sacrifice? When you feel ill, just remember, when you were a kid and you were ill or down with fever, your mother wouldn't sleep. She wouldn't even eat properly because she wanted you out of the bed. She wanted and wished a speedy recovery. And for that speedy recovery, she was ready to go to any extent, do any sort of sacrifice. So, parents cannot be purchased. Not everything in this world can be purchased. Money cannot buy everything, and definitely parents. They are the greatest gift, and they are the representation of God. And that is why in Indian spirituality, mothers are given the highest position. We have gods and goddesses, and some of the goddesses are worshipped. Okay, why? Because mothers, they play a great role in the development of their children. Behind the success of every man and every woman, definitely there is a mother. Because parents are not only parents, they are the second teachers as well. So they play the role of a teacher, right? So parents are a blend of all these qualities. I don't have to speak more on this. Now, there is another thing that you need to understand when it comes to parent-child relationship. See, parents will have to understand their children, and the children will have to understand their parents. So it is a mutual understanding, a mutual understanding. I trust my parents and my parents trust me. Now, parents are also human beings. Sometimes parents may make mistakes. So no one is 100% perfect. No one is infallible. What is the meaning of infallible? The quality of not making a mistake. No parent in this world is infallible. All have their shortcomings. And children, for that sake, are the same. They too have their shortcomings. So both of them have to understand this fact. And when this understanding comes, the problems that crop up between parents and children will be reduced. So, this lesson is based on child psychology. This exactly is the thing. Understanding of parents and children. Sometimes your parents may be very hard. They are hard for a cause, for a reason. It is not for nothing that they are hard. So sometimes parents look like a coconut. Have you seen a coconut? Definitely. So the coconut is very, very hard with an outer shell. But when you look at the kernel, the white part, you see, so sweet and it is so soft. You can relish that, you can make several dishes out of that. So parents, they don the role of a coconut sometimes. Hard outside. But that hardness is for a good cause. The problem is, children do not understand this hardness. They have a misunderstanding. And when the misunderstanding comes, then the problems start one after another. So, the first thing is that realization. You have to understand, you have to realize, if my parents are hard on me for certain things, it is for my good. You may not understand the result, or you may not be able to get the result immediately, but maybe after 1 or 2 years, maybe after a few months, maybe after a few days, you will understand, yes, my father was right, my mother was right, because I understand that now. So, the realization, that is important. Okay, now, we are going to discuss the lesson in brief. Before we discuss the lesson in brief, let me introduce you to the characters of this lesson. What are the characters? Number 1, it is Kezia. She is the protagonist of this lesson. What is the meaning of protagonist? The main character of the lesson, that is Kezia. She's a small girl, right? A school-going girl. And then you have Kezia's father. He also plays an important role in this lesson. But before we understand Kezia, we also need to kind of have a brief understanding about her father. Kezia is a little school-going girl, okay, very playful, but she's frightened of her father, fear. Whenever she sees her father, she has a kind of fear because she looks at her father as a strict disciplinarian. So when she looks at her father, the first thing that comes to her mind is that, my God, he is a stickler. Have you heard of this word stickler? S-T-I-C-K-L-E-R. Stickler means a strict disciplinarian. So he's a stickler, fear. But Kezia's father, in the beginning of the lesson, appears to be very serious and very solemn. He does not talk much. He goes to his office in a car and he comes back from his work in the evening, and the moment she listens to the sound, the honking or the sound of the vehicle of her father, a kind of fear sets in. My God, father has come now. I don't know what I have for today. So she is frightened of being punished. She is frightened of being charged or accused, whatever it may be. A kind of fear exists. But the very next morning, when Kezia's father leaves for work in a vehicle, she's very happy. Now the vehicle is out. I can be free for the rest of the day till evening. So this exactly is the condition of Kezia. The vehicle creates a horror in her mind. And then you have Kezia's mother. Of course, mother is a very loving person. She makes Kezia understand certain things. Whenever she makes a mistake, she makes her understand, no, this is not the way to do it, but you need to kind of do it this way. And she tries to give an understanding about her father. So she plays the role of a very understanding mother, an understanding mother. And then you have Kezia's grandmother. She is never hard on the girl, but always happy, all the time understanding the child, encouraging the child. That is the role Kezia's grandmother plays. So we have 4 major characters: Kezia, her father, Kezia's mother, and Kezia's grandmother. Right. Now, let us look at these points. Kezia is afraid to face her father. We have just discussed that point. And where does this fear come? Where does it come from? The fear comes from the subconscious level. That means it is hidden there. And one thing that you need to notice is fear causes misunderstanding. If you are afraid of a person, you will have all negative thoughts of that person. This is a point to be noted. You become pessimistic because there is fear which is operating in you. So fear causes suspicion, fear causes misunderstanding, Fear causes inferiority complex. Fear causes many other negative results. It produces negative results. So this girl, that is Kezia, is a victim of fear. But then, one day, her father leaves some papers on his desk, at his desk. So there are some papers which he leaves, and those papers are very important for him because he had to prepare a speech and deliver that speech in the board meeting. So he was one of the board members in his office. So he prepared a speech and left down the notes on a few sheets of paper. Now Kezia's father was going to celebrate his birthday. Now Kezia wanted to give him a gift. She wanted to give him a gift. So she thought, what gift could I give? And then finally, she wanted to make a pin cushion. You know what a pin cushion is? It is a kind of small, round object which has a velvet surface, and you can kind of put in the pins. You can just kind of put the pins on them. That is known as a pin cushion. And on big tables sometimes, at the table of your principal, at the table of a manager, you can see these pin cushions. It's meant for the pins to be pinned. So she thought of making a pin cushion. Now for that she needed some paper, she needed some velvet cloth and some other things. So she was looking for papers. She was running around the house, and finally she came across certain sheets of paper on the table of her father. So what did she do? She took all those sheets of paper, tore them into small pieces, and she was trying to push them inside the pin cushion. Now the tragedy takes place. In the evening, father comes. He looks for his papers on the table. They are not to be found there. And immediately he calls Kezia's mother and inquires about the papers. I left some important papers on the table. Did you see them? She says, no, I don't. Then you call Kezia. Maybe she might have an idea. So Kezia was called. And you know what happened? Father made an inquiry. It was a strict and a serious inquiry. He asked her whether she had seen the papers on the table. She said, yes, Papa, I did see. Okay, where are they? What did you do with those papers? Papa, I tried to make a pin cushion out of it. Pin cushion for what? It was for your birthday that I decided to make the pin cushion. And I took those papers. Our father became furious. You see, this is a place where you need to kind of focus a little bit. The girl's intention was to present something to her father because her father was going to have a birthday. But father takes it in another way. He feels that the papers are important to him and she had committed a mistake. And finally, the girl was beaten up. In the sense, father took a ruler, an iron ruler, and he beat Kezia. So Kezia was punished. She started weeping and she went and complained to her grandmother. Grandmother saw Kezia's condition and said, don't worry, my child. You see, father's papers were very important for him, and since you had torn those papers, it is natural that he became angry. Don't worry, I will talk to father and I will solve this problem. He won't be angry with you anymore. All the anger that was within him has come out. Now you go to bed. So Kezia's grandmother was a great consolation for her. She consoled him, and then finally Kezia goes to bed. Okay. Now after this incident, there is another incident that takes place which is very interesting, and that exactly is the climax of the lesson. And how does this climax take place? You know, one day, Kezia's mother leaves the house. She had some function to attend to, therefore she left. And Kezia was alone in the house, and father comes in the evening, and after that, something happens. Kezia is afraid. It begins to get dark, and then she becomes frightened because she's frightened to face the dark. And it is at that moment, Kesia's father comes to her, and something very strange and very interesting and very surprising and very pleasant happens. What exactly is that? We will discuss that in the next class. So, before we wind up today's session, I just wanted to kind of go over these points. You see, the qualities of parents. Try to go over them, very important. And this point, parents are hard on children sometimes, but the children should understand that there is a reason, there is a cause. If you understand that there is a reason behind your parents' harshness or hardness, definitely you'll be able to avoid many problems. And the third important point of the lesson is that mutual understanding between parents and children. This is more for the parents. See, both parents and children commit mistakes. This is the reality. It is not that parents are 100% perfect and children are 100% perfect as well. No. Both are human beings, so we both make mistakes. And if this understanding comes, that will reduce the issues and the problems which exist between parents and children. And the last but not the least point is that parents have to listen to their children, parents have to be logical, and for the children, they also have to use their reasoning. God has given us the sixth sense, the sense of reasoning. If something which you don't like, something which is not acceptable, you don't feel like accepting comes from your parents, try to understand that. Try to understand that there is a reason behind it. Then, do not misuse the freedom. Parents give freedom to the children, and children should use the freedom and not misuse it. Everything should be within a limit, and it should not violate the freedom. That is also important. So both play an important role in each other's progress. Wordsworth, the greatest poet, has said, the child is the father of man. So sometimes even grown-up people have lessons to take from kids and children. So both have to kind of support each other, understand each other, and there has to be a mutual understanding. That is the most important point that we discussed today. So with these, I think we can wind up. What happened to Kesia and what was Kesia's father's reaction to her fear is an interesting point to discuss. We'll discuss that in the next lesson. Till then, stay safe.